Welcome to the Stormsurf video surf forecast for the week starting Sunday, October 19th. First up, we take a look at the North Pacific Significant Wave Height chart. Notice a large gale circulating in the Gulf of Alaska, producing 27-foot seas aimed well at northern California, with energy already radiating into Hawaii. This, the extratropical remnants of what was Typhoon Vongfong south of Japan almost a week ago. Otherwise, a rather placid pattern is in control. Let's get into the details. First off, we'll take a look at the jet stream. Jet stream level winds, these up at 30,000 or more feet, help support the formation of storms and direct their path when they do form. Currently, we have a nice consolidated flow going across the width of the Pacific on about centered on the 42 north latitude. Nice area of winds here, 140, almost 150 knots. Falling into a trough. It is troughs, that is dips to the south in the northern hemisphere, that we're looking for. This helps set up a counterclockwise circulation in mid-levels of the atmosphere, which in effect is low pressure down at the ocean surface. And sure enough, we do have a gale, we know that already, here in the Gulf of Alaska, supported by this upper level trough. And this trough has been going on for quite some time in the Gulf of Alaska. A little bit of a split going on here off Japan, so the flow pretty much comes off Japan, splits a little bit, ridges to the north, and then falls into the trough. Here's where our low pressure is, and then again ridges over the U.S. coast, high pressure, likely inland. Let's put this into motion. So we roll this out. The trough in the Gulf pretty much fades out by Monday. We kind of get into this zonal flow, kind of a flat flow, but then another little dip starts developing here in the Gulf by Tuesday and continues into Thursday or even Friday, but starts pinching off. This will support low pressure, but notice winds were not particularly strong in this trough, so it's not as likely to produce gale activity down in lower levels of the atmosphere as the previous trough. Also notice off to the west, almost a split pattern. One flow here, a little bit of dead air in between, but mainly this is just a function of less wind energy in the jet at this point in time. Anyway, we're here, 6E Friday. We'll continue to roll this out. The trough in the Gulf pretty much starts pushing inland by Saturday, and then we just get into this very weak kind of malaise flow going on over the North Pacific, and that holds us into a week out or more. So no real development expected. The jet sort of takes a break for a while. So this is it. Get it while you can. And then even lesser activity is probably likely in the Gulf through this coming week, which would provide surf up into maybe a week out. But then things sort of fall apart after that. Let's go take a look down at the surface, see if the charts bear out what appears to be going on in the upper atmosphere. So here we go, surface level winds, surface level pressure. Notice low pressure in the Gulf, what is that, about 980 millibars, and weak winds, as one would expect, 30 knots. This is the wind down of the E.T. Vongfong gale, fading out, high pressure north of Hawaii. Also, we forgot to mention Hurricane Anna south of Kauai, moving off to the northwest. And then high pressure, weak low pressure here in the Bering Sea, but things look not particularly enticing in terms of storm or swell development. Put this into motion. Another gale starts developing in the Gulf with the secondary trough that we noticed in the upper atmosphere by Monday night. 40-knot winds, a little patch of 45-knot winds. This is a bit better than one would expect. Also notice what appears to be a cutoff gale forming here. High pressure above it, so high pressure circulates clockwise, low pressure counterclockwise. The difference in pressure between the two and the prevailing winds are from the east to the west, so this would target Japan with swell, but nothing in our forecast area. Also notice the path of Anna, pushing clear of the Hawaiian Islands now, but for the immediate future, starting Tuesday, 45-knot winds, this looks likely to target the Pacific Northwest. That rolls out, continued fetch, 30-knot winds. So 30-knot winds are pretty much good for 11, 12-second period swell. 35, then you're getting into 13 seconds in legitimate swell. So here we are into Wednesday. We'll continue to roll this out. Another gale in the Gulf. Not much, barely 35-knot winds on Thursday. And then Anna still continuing to sort of simmer, work its way north. So swell here. This is probably good for weekend swell into California, and maybe even a little bit of sideband energy for Hawaii. Notice the upper level low that was off here moved up to the north, and Anna appears to be heading in that direction as well. Put this into motion. We're out 100. We're into almost a week out now. Anna finally getting sucked into this area of low pressure, caught up by the jet stream, but not any significant development appears to be occurring. We'll just roll this out to 180 hours. It would be interesting if these two could get more joined. There would be more odds for development and better odds for swell to result. But that at this point in time, that does not appear to be the case. Big high pressure, 1032 millibars, locked down over the date line, all result of a weak upper jet stream flow, and then some sort of a gale trying to get going, but actually west of Kamchatka and not even over open ocean. So the pattern appears to be settling down. Let's go take a look at the wave model chart. So we're actually going to go back in time. We're back to Sunday night a week ago. Fong Fong, south of southern Japan, working its way over Japan into Monday, up the Kuril Islands, finally starting to wake up Wednesday. That was Wednesday of last week, 32-foot seas, building a little bit, 35-foot seas. So we're into Wednesday night. That is the 15th. This is what has produced swell that is currently hitting the Hawaiian Islands, a 320-degree path into Hawaii. Relative to Northern California, pretty northern path, about 304, 305 or so. This swell currently is hitting Hawaii. We expected it about 6.7 at 15 seconds. Here we go. We're looking at the current Waimea Bay buoy. These are high-res buoys not currently available on the site. You see the spectral data, and period's already down to 13.3 seconds. Here's the actual predicted surf height, 10 foot, which is about as what we expected. And we go down into the details here, and in the 15-second range, here we go. So it was toggling 6.5, 7.7. This updates every half hour or so. So it looks pretty close to about 6.5, 6.7 feet at 15 seconds if you do the math, in the 9, 10-foot range, and that would be Hawaiian at select breaks. Anyway, back to the significant wave height chart. So this is the peak of our swell generation here relative to Hawaii. We got up to 35 feet on Thursday morning relative to Hawaii. That's down about the 327-degree path. And then the system started moving a bit more focused on Northern California. This was into Friday. So we're into Friday now. Here we go, about the 296-degree path. 292, so right in there somewhere is the peak of the energy coming into Northern California. Southern California, about, what is that, 295 to 301, so maybe about 298 or so, let's say. Anyway, the system continued on east. That's 22, 24, 20, 22, 24, 20, let's say 27-foot seas right there. That was in Friday night, and then it regenerated a little bit into Saturday night, and again, energy coming down the 290, about the 294-degree path to Northern California, and about the, 301-degree path to Southern California. Then after that, it pretty much started settling down, but still has held together even into 18Z Sunday. So this is current data, and, same sort of deal. It's holding. This is about 290, 295, some energy south of that, but the core of it, we're picking it right at the middle of the fetch here, about 295 to Southern California, and relative to Central California, 292, let's say, maybe even 290 degrees. So unshadowed relative to the San Francisco area. Anyway, put this into motion. We're now see that this system fades out. This is what we're calling extratropical storm Fong Fong. Fades out. Swell moves into the California coast Monday and Tuesday. Another system starts developing. We saw this on the previous charts on Tuesday. Little area of almost 30-foot seas. Pretty north, though, relative to Northern California. There's the cutoff relative to like San Francisco Bay Area and the Point Reyes shadow, 319 degrees, barely on that, so as north as you can get, and then it peters out, and way north, too north for for Southern California and completely outside the Hawaii swell window. Also, this system, notice the arrows, everything pushing towards Japan, so nothing really there relative to Hawaii. Would be interesting to see if we get some back swell coming off of Anna as it pushes north of Hawaii. And then yet another system we're into, actually let's go back a little, Thursday, 20-foot seas falling and 22-foot there, and let's just sort of get a little angle here. So that's like 309, 302, very north angled swell indeed, and small at that. Probably good for 12, 13 second period swell sometime probably into the weekend for California. And then Anna, we're out 136 hours. Notice Anna getting picked up, 30-foot seas, but kind of not really aimed back at Hawaii so much, and we're into 180 hours, and that's it. It'll be interesting to see what the system does. Anyway, so that's kind of it. It looks like certainly a good pulse of swell Monday, Tuesday for California. Hawaii's already getting their pulse of that swell, and then continued smaller energy for the entire Pacific Northwest, California, for the bulk of next week, even into the weekend. And then this is yet the next thing that we're watching here. What happens with what we'll call extratropical storm Anna, assuming it follows this path. Beyond that, let's go see what's in store. So here we go, Southern Oscillation Index. This is the difference in pressure between Darwin, Australia, and Tahiti. Negative numbers represent the active phase of the Madden-Julian oscillation. Prolonged negative numbers suggest El Nino. We're back into negative numbers. Last week it kind of went positive. Now we've been running here for a good little bit, a nice negative dip in numbers, and we'll show you why. So to get negative numbers, you need low pressure under Tahiti or near Tahiti. So Tahiti is roughly here, and sure enough, here's our low pressure. That's what's dry, and there's high pressure over Australia. The difference, this is what causes the negative numbers in the SOI. If we roll this out, notice low pressure hanging south of Tahiti, just sort of rolls out, and then we get some high pressure in, but then there's some suggestions later on of maybe more weak low pressure, maybe not a lot, but whoops. Here you go. This is how the previous low pressure started. Just this little bend in the isobars, and as that works its way east, then it'll drive the SOI negative again. So we have our daily negative numbers down minus 5.87, driven pretty much this whole run by low pressure south of Tahiti. The 30-day average minus 3.86, and we expect this to start falling as well. And then the 90-day running average minus 7.43. This is generally what we call in weak El Nino territory, and seems pretty consistent actually with what's going on atmospherically across the Pacific Ocean. So next we take a look at surface wind anomalies. These are differences from normal in the wind direction and wind speed. Notice a little patch of westerly anomalies. That is consistent with the active phase of the MJO. If you had enhanced trades, that is easterly anomalies, then that would be indicative of the inactive phase of the MJO. And if trades have been stronger than normal for long periods of time, then one would say, well, that's La Nina. But currently, another little bout here of westerly anomalies, not at large, but also but in the right area, good enough, and that's what we're looking for. We'll also go look here, and we have a little pocket of easterly anomalies. It's just a couple degrees either side of the equator here. Where's Hawaii? Right about here, and then pretty much a neutral pattern. So right now, not a whole lot. A week from now, easterly anomalies, small patch over the extreme far west Pacific. Pretty much the cutoff that we're looking for is about 140 east from here this way. Notice westerly anomalies down just south of the equator. This is what we call the Kelvin wave generation area, from a box from about here going out to about here. Westerly anomalies, or at least a relaxation of trades in this area, help create Kelvin waves, and we'll get into Kelvin waves more in a minute. Now here's the interesting part. This is the TAO array of buoys on the equator. This is actual wind speeds, actual surface temperatures. These are the anomalies from normal. Notice the arrows. definitely pointing west. This is as the 18th, as of yesterday. So this is still saying westerly anomalies were in play yesterday in the Kelvin wave generation area, and you could again take a little box and paint it like here to about here, that sort of thing, right where you'd want it to be. The previous charts that we looked at were winds up at about 4,500 feet. They call it the 850 millibar level. And they say that's a good representation of what's going on at the surface. But these are actual measurements from buoys sitting on the ocean surface. You can't beat that in terms of accuracy, and it updates every day. So clearly, westerly anomalies still in play. That's great. That generates Kelvin waves, and Kelvin waves are the hallmark of El Nino. And here's our chart over time. The reds and the yellows are westerly anomalies. The green or the blues are easterly anomalies, and you can't see it here. We'll scroll down. So the far west Pacific is about right here, and the Galapagos Islands are right around here. Notice a little westerly wind burst in September, a much bigger one end of September, almost into the 8th of October. And then another one that just happened, about the 11th of October and is just about wrapping up now. And that's right about where we saw it on the TAO array. And then things sort of settle down. This is a prediction here, so who knows how accurate that is. A little bit of easterly anomalies suggested, but pretty much outside. The Kelvin wave generation area starts right about here. So again, no real clear signs of easterly anomalies, historically speaking. It's all about the westerly anomalies, and that's what we want. So that's what's happened so far. Let's look into the future. Outgoing long-wave radiation, reds, yellows, suggest easterly anomalies. The inactive phase of the MJO, high pressure, lots of surface reflection off the ocean surface, sunlight reflection that is, outgoing long wave radiation anomalies. That's what we're looking at here. So the statistic model suggests sort of a fading of the active phase for the next 5-10 days, and then this inactive phase fades out. The dynamic model is a little bit more stronger in suggesting that the inactive phase is to hold for a while, but you know what? The models have not been right at all about the inactive phase for months now, so we don't necessarily believe this either. And then finally, the upper level model. This is a 40-day model as of last night, Saturday night. The same deal. This is at the jet stream level. Reds, yellows suggest areas of not supportive of precipitation. The greens are areas supportive of precipitation. So you know this is sort of atmospheric wave tracking from the West Pacific to the East Pacific. This would be roughly equivalent to the MJO. So basically a non-favorable pattern for westerly wind bursts through about the 8th of November. But then here, notice in the West Pacific, a new favorable pattern starts developing about the 3rd of November and works its way east over the equator the whole way into just about the end of November. So November is looking to be an active period. The rest of October, maybe not so active. And that's sort of what the jet stream model suggests, and that's kind of what's driving everything here. So maybe a bit of a downturn. We've had a great run of early season surf, so maybe we'll have a couple 2 weeks, let's say roughly, of less activity, and then things start heating up again. And typically when you see these greens, that also suggests tropical activity, and where the green is where the tropical activity is. So you'd see some maybe tropical activity around Japan, West Pacific, working its way towards Hawaii, and then finally maybe in towards Central America. But it's getting kind of late in the season by mid to late November. But if El Nino were in play, it wouldn't be surprising to see some of that occurring. Next, we take a look at ocean surface temperature anomalies. Differences from normal for this time of year. Notice, a warm regime continues off of the Galapagos Islands, Central America. This is no different than things have been for months. The result of multiple Kelvin waves working their way. So again, we talk about westerly winds over here in the Kelvin wave generation area, or even westerly anomalies, that is trades blowing weaker than normal. Warm water this area starts sinking, downwelling, working its way under the ocean surface, gurgling up in this area, creating warm anomalies. And then all this area is warmer than normal. The result of what is actually the suppression of normal high pressure that's here. It's been missing all summer. Water temperatures way warmer than normal along the entire U.S. West Coast down into Baja, and I presume the same down into Central America. Hawaii, same deal. Reports of trades less than normal. Also, Tahiti. First-hand reports there saying much wetter than normal, weaker trades than normal. All this is typical of what we'd call a developing El Nino. Not necessarily a strong one, but some form of El Nino. And the fact that, notice, warm waters here. What are these? Oh, a half a degree to 1 degree in this general area over the entire area are warmer than normal. Now, here's the other key component in today's, or the most recent reading. This area of cool water here is starting to shrink. Let's go back a little bit in time and take a look. So here we are back in September. Notice the extent of the cooler waters here almost reaching up to the equator. We'll put this into motion. Watch as that area steadily declines when we get into now this time frame. All the area that was blue out here is gone. Also notice it's been depressed further south. So the cool area is cool water is getting contained, warm water taking over. This is a good sign, but not super significant in that still there's been warm water in this area the whole time, and it's only building along the entire equator now. And again, back to this chart, 1 degree anomalies covering the entire equator pretty much from 150 east into 120 west. The Nino 3.4 region, this is what NOAA considers the prime area for monitoring or the development of El Nino, and what they monitor is pretty much between about 170 here, a couple degrees either side of this box that goes right here. And you can see it's definitely warmer than normal, half a degree, 1 degree. So a little bit displaced to the north, but certainly suggestive of a budding El Nino. Next, we take a look, subsurface temperature anomalies. So here we go. This is, where is this? 140. So this is the western edge of the Kelvin wave generation area here, Galapagos Islands here. We're looking down at depth, 50 meters, 100 meters, 150 meters. And notice, and this is temperature at depth. So we're looking at a cross-section of the entire equatorial Pacific. And notice, 1 degree anomalies here. This would be where the westerly winds would be blowing, pushing warm water at depth. A 2 degree pocket here, another 2 degree pocket here. So this is 1 Kelvin wave pushing into the Galapagos right now from warm anomalies back, or westerly anomalies, I'm sorry, back in September. And now we have yet a 2nd Kelvin wave, the result of the more recent westerly wind bursts. And the pipe is just basically wide open and warm water's flowing through. Not piles of it, but just a consistent, steady bleed of warm water coming into the equatorial East Pacific. This is exactly what you want. This feeds the jet stream. This feeds storm development. This feeds tropical development as well. All the things that are happening now that make this year so much different than all the others. The run of tropical storms that produce surf for Southern California. The tropical systems, including Anna, which is south of Hawaii right now. The super typhoons off of Japan. All this is classic sort of weak standard El Nino sort of flow, exactly what we want to see. And the expectation is that's not going to change this winter. We're well into a well-set pattern. This has been in play since at least January of this year. It isn't going to change. This means that this winter we would expect a better than average year for surf and storm development. And here's another look, a different sort of profile, but 1 Kelvin wave here moving in, a 2nd Kelvin wave, a little bit of break in between the two, and other bits of warm water way out. So, I mean, the pipe's wide open. This is what we want to see. We should have shown this chart earlier, but here's the Southern Oscillation Index, SOI, 30-day average over the past couple of years. Here, beginning January, the SOI took a giant nosedive into negative territory. That's certainly a wake-up call suggesting something's going on in the atmosphere, which it was. We had massive Kelvin waves, almost a complete reversal of trades in the far west Pacific. That created the first bit of warm water pushing into the equatorial Central America area. Things backed off a little bit in the May, June time frame, and then here we go, went negative again, kind of backed off a little bit recently in that just little downturn there. That's the past 5 or 6 days of negative SOI numbers. If you're in El Nino, you want to see this hovering right down around the -10. If it's a strong El Nino, it'll be down around 15 or more. But certainly it's not positive, and the positive numbers are the suggestion of La Nina. We're clearly in some sort of El Nino or weak El Nino period. And finally, the output of the model, CFS version 2, Nino 3.4 forecast. That again is that area between about 170 west and 120 west, a couple degrees either side of the equator. Currently, here we are, about half a degree above normal in that area. If you average all the water across the, that's several thousand miles of ocean there, and the forecast suggests steady warming into January. Now, typically El Nino peaks in about the late January time frame, and here we are into February, and it sort of shows it peaking, but only, we're talking about 0.8 of a degrees. A real El Nino, a real minimum El Nino would be about 1 degree or 1.2 degrees. The last El Nino we had in 2010 was about a 1.4 degree El Nino. So this is below that, just a bare minimum, like a low-grade fever kind of thing. But here's the interesting part. You get into April, May, June, July. Normally El Nino starts dropping off and you fall almost into a La Nina pattern by, the June-July time frame. But no, the model suggests temperatures holding and, if anything, going up. This is good news. We've been talking about this for a while now. The model hasn't changed. A bit of divergence. Notice some of the members are way up, some of them are way down. Much uncertainty. You're dreaming to put any money on any of this. But the suggestion being, if we don't quite make El Nino, if we're just gurgling along in about the 0.6, 0.7 degree range through this year, that's good. It'll still goose up the jet stream track, still helps make piles of surf, and likely even water into California and snow in the Sierra. But if you don't make the threshold for a real El Nino, a lot of times you get this thing called a Modoki El Nino. It's not like, it's an El Nino, but not really, and it'll go on for several years in a row. You get a lot of momentum build up in the jet stream. Ultimately, sometimes 2 or even 3 years of this Modoki El Nino kind of thing goes on, and then finally you get a big El Nino towards the end of it. So the model suggests that maybe that's where we're heading. That's where we want to be heading. You don't want the big El Nino and then a big crash after that. That's no good, because 6 months of great surf and then you suffer for 2 or 3 years after that. If I'm going to pay for 2 or 3 years, I'd rather pay with 2 or 3 years of goodness on the front end, and that's where the pattern that looks like we're heading towards. So this is good news. So to put a bow on things, swell currently hitting Hawaii. Same swell moving into California, probably bigger than it was in Hawaii for Monday, Tuesday, and residuals Wednesday, Thursday, and then continued small gale development in the Gulf for probably into Friday or Saturday of this coming week, which means surf pretty much through the weekend. After that, the pattern sort of looks like it falls apart some, at least per the models, but it wouldn't surprise us to see it sort of wake up at some point. Part 2 of this is the El Nino prognosis continues to look good. Minimal weak El Nino at best, or Modoki probably is the more likely outcome, suggestive of a multi-year pattern. So that not only is good for the winter months and for the snowpack, but once you get this going, the summer after an El Nino winter tends to enhance the jet stream in the southern hemisphere as well as the pattern sort of gets more momentum and starts having more of a global impact. And so the suggestion is maybe even next summer one could say the surf might be good as well. We'll see. That's a wild guess, but at this point everything continues to be thumbs up and looking good. So for now, just go get some surf, go have some fun, sort of pace yourself. It looks like it might be a pretty long winter coming up. And that's it. We'll do this again next week. Same time, same channel. Have fun. Thanks. Bye.